Hey, it's John from Sparks K9. Hey, we get a lot of people that come in here with, hey, my dog's reactive. How do I make my dog stop doing this? How do I make my dog stop doing that? He barks at dogs when I see him. So realistically, we focus very little on how to make my dog not do something. We actually teach the dog what to do, what's expected of him, how to do those things, the value in doing those things for us, and especially in certain contexts. So if you have a dog that geeks up and sees other dogs, usually that is, everybody calls that reactivity, but it really isn't as much about reactivity as a learned response. Your dog has somewhere along the lines gotten himself geeked up. He sees another, here's one right there. One of my dogs was with me here. He's trying to get my attention. But Cooper, who's right behind me, used to be quite dog reactive. He'd hear a dog and it would just trigger a response in him and he would get all crazy and nutso, barking, lunging, biting. Sometimes he's a little bit of a hand biter on his handler. He'd kind of redirect. He'd do a lot of these things. I didn't really focus on, hey, don't do that. I'd just get him out of the situation for that time, and then be very careful about what situations I put him into while he was learning. So considering my training environment and the distractions in that environment are much more important than trying to control him. If I have to control him, I'm going to control him, but I'm going to get him through or out of that situation and set him up for success by putting him in the proper environment and the proper level of distraction for his level of understanding and his ability to control his impulses. So Cooper, again, he was very naughty and reactive, especially around other dogs that were a little bit excitable. He did a private lesson, or a couple of private lessons today with some pretty reactive dogs, and he worked it like a dream. I actually got him to get excited on purpose so we could kind of gauge the other dog's response. And then he cut it right back off when I asked him to. There was no e-collar, no correction, no punishers. He just shut it off for me, and he got rewarded for his efforts. It's all a learning process. A lot of people don't really take the proper steps along the process of learning so their dog can actually learn. They want to have the easy button answer. They come in with electronic collars and all kinds of things set at pretty high levels, and then they just figure, well, I'll just use the hammer. I have a hammer now, so I'll just hammer the dog when he does what I don't like. That can work in certain circumstances with certain dogs. A lot of times it's going to have fallout along with it. Fallout is basically like an unintended consequence. Those unintended consequences can be pretty hard to fix or to repair later, and a lot of people get it. Unintended consequences a lot of times is what dog reactivity is. It's actually a learned response, and it's an unintended consequence of, I have to take my dog on a walk. He needs exercise, so I got to take and walk him. Unfortunately, he sees another dog, he gets excited, he starts pulling on the leash, he practices this behavior over and over and over. Pretty soon that arousal level keeps coming up. Now he sees a dog, now he triggers up, and he's barking and lunging at the leash, and the handler end is trying to correct and all these kind of things. And it's really just a hot mess, but it's him learning a behavior that you don't want because you're putting him in a state of drive. He's getting something out of it. He's getting the adrenaline, dopamine, norepinephrine, all that kind of thing from being in that agitation or arousal process. And it creates a big problem for us. So the best thing you can do with a dog like that is actually create some kind of an addiction or reward system for the dog outside of that thing you don't want. Build that connection and build the habits and the behaviors, which is what we teach you, whether it's novice obedience or if we're teaching you food type training or electronic collar training. There's a lot of ways to get the dog to understand what it is that you want and how we work together as partners that don't involve taking a hammer or the e-collar or the prong collar or the heavy corrections or whatever. If you're relying upon those things, you're probably not training your dog as much as you think you are. You're probably just trying to make your dog or force him through a situation. Again, there's a lot of fallout with doing that. Does it work with some dogs? To a degree. Is it good training? Not really. It's more just making the dog do something. I very rarely prefer making a dog do something. If I can get the dog to want to do the thing, and he kind of thinks it's his idea to do that thing, and he's pushing me for behaviors that are actually acceptable for me and they're acceptable for him or rewarding for him, it's a much, much better situation. So that's where we really try to push you. The problem we get with a lot of people is they want the right now button. They want to push that easy button, or they want the magic bullet that'll fix this dog reactivity right now. They want it in one lesson. You know, it's not really a thing that happens that often unless you're willing to just constantly control the dog, and that's what you're satisfied with. I am very unsatisfied with control my dog. I want my dog to be in control of himself and to learn things and to be able to do things that were hard for him before very easily, because he's practiced, he has knowledge, he's got the ability now to do these things, and that's why I spend the time to actually train the dog. We break it down and we start off at some foundation level, whatever type of training we're doing. When we do very varied types of training, depending on what the people want to do, what their dog already knows, what level they're already at. One of my favorite ways to go, though, is just basic social obedience training. That's our novice level training. We actually started in puppy, we continued that on in beginner novice, and then a lot of people are coming with more adult dogs, so they go right to novice class. And then we just give them some basic foundational things on how to set the dog up for success, how to put a foundation on the dog, how to add that next brick of knowing what to do, and then work that. So we show it, teach it, proof it, work it through distractions, and then we add another brick that basically butts up to that brick. Once that foundation is down and those bricks are solidly placed on there and they're connected and joined, we add another brick on top that actually stacks and locks those layers together. Each thing that we add, everything that we do, makes it better and better and better. So now you have solid foundation, you've got rows of bricks, then you've got locking bricks on each of those rows that are locked together and then interlocked again. So each little thing that the dog knows becomes attached or dependent and works with the previous behaviors that we taught the dog and those levels of knowledge. So it's a lot deeper than put a short leash in and just make the dog do it, or a short leash in some kind of a control tool or whatnot. I try to stay away from that type of thing. In a pinch, if we have to control the dog for its safety or somebody else's safety, absolutely control the dog. Otherwise, spend your time showing and teaching your dog what to do. Choose a proper environment, choose the proper level of distraction. Now, if you can control those two things, you don't have to control the dog. You can set it up, let him try. He'll find whatever answer, whether it worked for him or if it didn't work for him. And then we can set it up again, and he can either try the one that worked for him or the one that didn't work for him. Again, he'll have that answer and he'll start stacking things up, and he'll start doing the one that actually gives him the advantage or that worked for him. Because that's what dogs spend their time doing, seeking their advantage in whatever situation it is. If his advantage just happens to be barking and lunging at dogs while I hold him back, and he gets all kinds of adrenaline and dopamine and excitement every time we go on a walk and he sees a dog or a person or whatever it is, that's the advantage he's going to seek. That's the advantage we're reinforcing. That's the behaviors we're going to get. And a lot of these dogs, if they're pretty driven or if they're pretty geeked up and high on that adrenaline, it doesn't matter how much correction you give them. A lot of them are still going to go after it. Again, some of them you can cool that down, but how does that work for you later when you're not paying attention, or if you're just trying to enjoy time with your dog? Do you want to always have to be on guard about my dog freaking out? Or do you want to teach your dog how to be your partner and not have to worry about these things in the future? That's what I prefer to do. That's what Sparks K9 will give you. It is up to you to follow the homework. We have very extensive homework. It's got PDF documents, step-by-step instructions on everything you should do that are in writing. We've got videos that complement that. It's got a video of everything you should be doing each week of the training, whatever it is, if we're doing foundation work or if we're doing responsibility work, or if we're adding in our discipline layers, or every layer that we add in has something very specific that must be done. It's so specific, and it's got a lot of small details, so it actually requires the students to look at their homework, watch the videos more than once on a lot of occasions, refresh your memory before you go out and do the work. Because what happens is people try to remember what we did in our lesson or at class, and then they go home, do what they remember that we did, and they're missing most of the details. And they come back and their dog is woefully unprepared to go on to the next lesson or to the next class. And that is up to them, and that is their fault. They have to carry that burden. Because I'm not going to push a dog beyond his ability or his level to work. If he can't work through those distractions because he doesn't know the material, that's on the handler, because the handler failed the dog by not making sure the dog was ready to come to class or to come to the lesson in advance. So don't cheat your dog out of a proper education because you have other things to do, or because you don't think he really needs you to. You think you can just force your way through. That's not what we teach you here. There are plenty of places that do, but that is not what we'll teach you here. We want you to be very successful. We want your dog to be successful. That gives your dog an opportunity to have a great life and for you to really enjoy your dog. There is nothing better than a properly trained dog that knows what to do and is willing to do it, and he puts his heart and soul in it, and he does it because it is his advantage to do the right things. Fail to do that, and you're pretty much just fighting your dog all the time, and that is not a fun way to be with the dog, and it tends to be dangerous. All right. That's all I'm going to blab on about. I just wanted to kind of say that piece. If you're coming to us for training, please do the homework. Please focus on the little details. If you have questions, ask us. We'll tell you. If you don't stay out there and be lost and be confused. We can help you. Awesome. Thanks.